Hi guys, welcome back to Sacred Vedic Astrology. My name is Samantha and I am a professional Vedic sidereal astrologer. So, we're going to do a really fun chart analysis today. We are going to look at what the strength of a Venus will do in someone's astrological chart. What I love so much about Jyotisha and Vedic astrology is that we can come to these extremely in-depth analysis of charts that we will just never get to in Western tropical astrology. So there's so many answers that are truly missing in Western astrology because so much of the information got lost over time, right? They don't have the yogas, they don't have the nakshatras, they don't have Chandra Lagna, they don't flip charts from the ascendant, they don't have the D9, they don't have the D10, right? There's so much information we can access in Vedic astrology. And I want this lesson today to show us one, how powerful Venus is in the chart for a performer, for someone who's creative, for someone who's beautiful, for someone who's really connected to the pleasures of life as well too. But also I want to show you guys how insanely beautiful of a system Vedic astrology is because we can access so many things that we just cannot access in Western astrology. All right, so both things are going to be important in this video today, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up Jim Morrison's Vedic sidereal astrology chart because he truly has one of the strongest Venus energies I've seen in someone's chart, okay? He has a Mulavaya Yoga. He has a Mulavaya Yoga from the Ascendant, but also Mulavaya Yoga from Chandra Lagna, Moon as the Ascendant. He also has Venus in a Kendra Angle house in his D9 Navamsha, and there's also a strength of Venus for his ascendant. So Venus is also Yogacarika for Capricorn ascendant as well too. So there's so many things going on that really creates this like extreme strength of Venus in Jim's chart. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and do chart analysis. And I hope you guys learned something from this. And also, I hope it shows you guys how amazing of a system Vedic sidereal astrology is. It's truly the system of astrology that you want to learn and you want to study if you do want to be a accurate astrologer, not if you want to be a psychological astrologer, not if you want to talk about personalities. Vedic astrology is where you go if you really want to see someone's life story. All right, so I'm going to pull up Jim's chart and we are going to get right into it today, guys. All right, guys, so let's get right into chart analysis. So, okay, this is truly one of my favorite examples of an artist's astrology chart. Guys, you can tell that, like, I love Vedic astrology so much because every time I pull up a chart, I get this like most excited, happiest feeling that you could ever get in your life. And you can also tell that I have a Venus-Mars conjunction because I'm so passionate about things that I am passionate about. So when I love things, I love them so much, and that's that Venus-Mars energy. But that's despite the point. Let's get into it. All right. So here we have Jim's chart pulled up. Okay, so let's go to his Venus in the 10th house right here in the Swati Nakshatra in Libra, okay? So first thing to note is that for Capricorn ascendant, Venus just so happens to be Yogacarika. Why? Because Venus rules the 10th and Venus rules the 5th, okay? So when a planet rules the 10th house and the 5th house in Vedic astrology, that is going to be the most potent and powerful planet for someone's chart. Why? Because the 5th house is a really positive house. 10th house is a really powerful house. So we have like this lucky 5th house, and then we have this powerful Kendra Angle 10th house, and they are both ruling a planet. Okay, so for Capricorn ascendant, that 5th house and that 10th house rulership of Venus will show that wherever Venus sits, we'll get a lot of strength and a lot of power. So there's one thing that is already making Jim's Venus really strong is that he is a Capricorn ascendant, which means that Venus is Yogacarika for his chart. All right, so we have that one aspect that's already so potent and so powerful, but we have so much more to get into. Okay, the second thing that makes his Venus so powerful is that his Venus sits in its home sign of Libra in his 10th house. okay? Venus in its own sign will already create this potency of Venus, right? But it just so happens to be in a Kendra Angle house in his 10th house of career and public image, which does create a Mulavaya yoga. So in Vedic astrology, there are these yogas that are called the Mahaprasha yogas, or the yogas of 5 great men, is how that translates. So what these yogas mean is that when someone has one of these yogas in their chart, they are all about whatever that planetary energy is, okay? So if we have Venus in its own sign in the 10th house, we have a Mulavaya yoga, that person is Venus through and through, okay? If someone has Jupiter in Sagittarius in a Kendra Angle house, they are Jupiter through and through, okay? If someone has Saturn in its own sign in a Kendra Angle house, they are Saturn through and through. And these Mahaprasha yogas always work, guys. I have never seen a chart where I have not found that the Mahaprasha yogas are really potent and really powerful. I have a Jupiter Hamsa yoga. I am Jupiter through and through. I have always loved travel. I have always loved philosophy. I have always loved astrology. I have always loved metaphysics since I was like born, essentially. So I am Jupiter through and through. I also love to have fun. I love to laugh. I am very Jupiter through and through, okay? So I can tell you from personal experience, these yogas absolutely work. And whenever I have clients with the Mahaprasha yogas, they are absolutely the energy of that planet, okay? So Jim is Venus. He is Venus through and through. And my teacher, Joni, my first teacher would tell me that if you see a Mahaprasha yoga, it's like that planet is stamped on someone's forehead, right? So it's like Venus is like on Jim's forehead. Wherever he goes, you're going to associate him with Venus, okay? And Venus is the karaka, or the indicator of love, beauty, aesthetics, creativity, pleasure, sensuality. Venus is also, I have found, connected to women in a male's chart as well too. And Jim was so insanely popular with women in his lifetime as well. Venus is a very creative planet. Venus is artistic through and through, and Venus is also really aesthetically pleasing. So if someone has a strong Venus, best believe they are going to be easy on the eyes, okay? That's that strength of Venus. It's in his 10th house of career and public image, which means that in his whole career, his whole public image, he's going to come across very strongly like the planet Venus, right? He's always going to be creative. He's always going to be beautiful. He's going to be connected to sensuality, all those themes of Venus, okay? It's also in the Swati nakshatra, which connects to being pretty much like good at business and talking your way out of things as well too. Swati is a nakshatra where people are really good at kind of getting out of things because they are so good with their words, right? That's that Venus in the 10th house. Okay. And because that's Yoga Karaka for Capricorn ascendant, Venus is in its own sign in a Kendra angle. There's 2 things that are showing us an extreme strength of Venus in Jim's chart, all right? But don't worry, there's more. In Vedic astrology, something that I kind of like to use in my own practice is I like to see something 3 times to know that it's really accurate. So if I see something once, okay, there's potential. If I see something twice, okay, there's a lot of potential. If I see something 3 times, we can bet that that thing will be true in someone's life experience, all right? So we have 1, we have Venus is Yoga Karaka for Capricorn ascendant. We have 2, Venus is in its own sign in a Kendra angle house making a Mulavaya yoga, meaning that he has a special yoga that makes Venus his strongest placement in his chart. Okay, now here's another thing. His 10th house lord is in the 5th house, which means, his 10th house lord is in the 10th house, which means that his career is all Venus, okay? Also, we see moon aspecting Venus by opposition, okay? We see the moon in Aries, which is also Digbala, or directional strength. So his moon is getting Digbala in the 4th house, which means he has some good energy around his moon, and then it's aspecting Venus. So moon-Venus aspects, best believe that he was popular amongst women, okay? The moon is women, Venus is the karaka for women, and the wife in the Vedic chart for men. So when there's an aspect there, women really like being around him, I'll tell you that much. And we knew that, right? He had so many women in his lifetime, so many groupies. I used to joke with people. I would always tell this to people. I'd be like, I used to be Jim Morrison's groupie in a past life, which I honestly feel in my soul to be very true. But anyways, when he was going about his career and going about his life, he was so magnetic to women because that's that Venus aspect on the moon. Venus is strong. The moon is strong in the sense that it's getting Digbala or directional strength in the fourth house. Okay, so we see a strong moon putting its aspect onto Venus. And it's also a pretty bright moon as well, too. Because see how the moon is in the fourth, the sun is in the 11th. If the sun was in the 10th house, we would have a full moon. It's not quite, but see how it's still going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 placements away, which means that, it's close to that opposition. So we see a brighter moon as well too. All right, so then that moon aspects Venus in the 10th. So moon is fame, moon is the masses. So we really like to see moon aspects on the 10th house when someone is going to be famous and well known in some regard as well too, because that really heightens like the public recognition in someone's career when we see that moon aspect onto Venus. All right, so we're getting more of that fame, more of that ability to be seen. When there's moon Venus aspects, people are very attractive, they're very creative, they're also very overindulgent as well too. So moon opposite Venus is a classic aspect in Vedic astrology, or maybe Western astrology more so, but we've kind of brought it into Vedic astrology now because I use aspects. As someone who's coming from Western astrology, I find them to be eerily accurate. So I love aspects in astrology. But moon opposite Venus will show that he had this sense of, feeling good, feeling sensual, and he also was really into overindulgence as well too. You'll find that like Venus moon aspect people, when they drink, they overdrink. When they eat, they overeat. When they, are into their sexuality, they're overly sexual. Everything is very overindulgent with Venus moon aspects. Okay. So we saw that, right? We saw that constantly manifesting in his life. He was overdoing the drugs. He was overdoing the alcohol. He was overdoing the sex appeal. He was very much overdoing everything, But Venus moon will give someone a lot of creative artistic talent, a lot of charisma, and a lot of sort of good energy with women in their lifetime as well too, okay? Because that's moon, the karaka for women. Venus is the attraction. Venus also rules women in the male's chart. And we see that fourth house getting Digbala or directional strength aspecting that 10th house Venus as well too. So a good moon aspecting a good Venus. So it's bringing that energy into his 10th house of career. So there's another thing that's showing us the creative aspects in his career, showing a strong Venus moon aspect, also showing us how he was very indulgent and into the sensual things in life as well too, is what you'll see with moon Venus aspects. Absolutely. Okay. And we also do see that he has Mars in his 5th house. So Mars is also that, energy. It's in his 5th house of creativity. His 5th house Lord is in the 10th house, which creates Raj Yoga. Okay. 5th house Lord in the 10th for Capricorn ascendant. 10th house, Venus is Yoga Karaka. And then we see a Raj Yoga between his 5th house and his 10th house. So Raja Yoga can show that someone is famous. It can show that someone is really successful, and it's between the houses of career and creativity. All right, so there's a third thing that is showing us the strength of creativity and fame and all of those aspects in this chart. All right, so let's get to the fourth thing because there's still more. There's still more going on. So, okay. So in Vedic astrology, we look to yogas from first the ascendant, which is just kind of that natal lagna, right? So for him, it's Capricorn ascendant. So it means that if we see that Venus yoga from the ascendant, we want to check it from Chandra lagna as well too. So Chandra lagna is when we flip the moon as the ascendant. So we act as if the moon is the first house, and then we kind of read the chart from that way. So if we go from Chandra lagna, then we have moon Aries in the first house. Okay, so let's start as if the moon is the first house, and let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we end up at Libra, Venus and Libra in the 7th house. So It's as if this Venus is now in the 7th house of Libra, which would show that we have that Molavaya yoga from Lagna, natal ascendant, and then from Chandra Lagna, moon is the ascendant. Okay, so we see that there is that aspect of Venus, Molavaya, strength of that yoga from the ascendant, but also Chandra Lagna, moon is the ascendant. So it's a really, really strong Venus, guys, through and through. We can see 4 ways that this is a really strong Venus. But also, there's another thing as well, too. So in the D9 Navamsha, we see Venus in the 7th house in a Kendra angle house. So whenever Venus goes into the 7th, it's in a house of power. I've seen many, many charts of famous singers and artists where they have Venus in a Kendra angle house in the D1, and then they have Venus in a Kendra angle house in the D9 as well, too. So we see Venus in the 7th in the D9 Navamsha as well, too. We do see 7th house Lord in the 12th house, which shows some issues around relationships and marriage, losses, things of that nature. But we won't get into that in this analysis, but, another interesting aspect is that. So we see Venus in a Kendra angle house in the D9 as well, too. So this Venus is very, very strong. Very, very strong. Okay? Now, let's do something fun. Let's pull up his D10 Dashamsha chart as well, too, and just see what is going on in this chart, because I actually kind of forgot, to be honest. Okay, so let's go over to his 10th house. Let's see, 10th house. Not sure why this analysis. Okay, there we go. Okay, so 10th house, Brigu Bindu point, which means that this is a very career-heavy life for him. 9th house Lord, Venus in the 9th, and then we see that Moon, Jupiter in the 7th. And then we see Mars in the 5th house, Sun in the 12th. So we do also see themes of good luck with the career in the D10 as well, too. We see that 5th house. We see that Brigu Bindu point in the 10th house, which means that it was a very career-heavy lifetime for him as well, too. All right, so that is how we see the strength of Venus, right? We're analyzing it from many different perspectives. Here's a little insight into what Vedic charts look like. Didn't really mean to scroll, but now you guys are getting some insight into what we are analyzing. Yes, there's that many charts. This is what Vedic Prashra's light looks like. If you guys were ever curious, now you get a little insight, information into what Vedic astrologers are looking at on their screen. But anyways, let's go back to the birth chart. So, all right, so we see that strength of Venus in about 4 to 5 ways in Jim's chart. So he had a really, really powerful Venus, and that moon aspect on Venus is really important to note as well, too, because it brings, the masses into his career as well, too. The moon is the public, so it will show that there's, public recognition around Venus themes for him, which is creativity, which is the aesthetics, which is the beauty. But also that moon Venus aspect will show us that someone is very, very attractive to women in their lifetime, okay? And he was attractive to women in his career, quite literally. That's that Venus moon aspect in his chart, all right? Something that I think is really interesting about Jim's chart as well, too, is he does have K2 on the ascendant, and I haven't necessarily come up with a fully formed theory on this, okay? So don't hold me to it yet, but whenever I see people who have some pretty big notoriety and fame, you'll find a lot of them have K2 on the ascendant. And it's kind of counterintuitive in the sense that K2 is going to make someone shy, it's going to make someone introspective, okay? Lana Del Rey has K2 on the ascendant. Cat Powers, I believe, has K2 on the ascendant. So you'll find that these types of performers are very shy. They're very introspective. They're also very mystical in some way as well, too. Okay, so we see that K2 on his ascendant. And Jim was very shy. He was very introspective, right? He wasn't this big, bold, brazen personality when he was sober, actually, which is really interesting, right? Because we can see all these themes of overindulgence and fame and notoriety and creativity and beauty and the arts and all those things. But then we also get this aspect of K2 in the 1st house, which makes them very inward. It makes them very shy. It makes them very withdrawn, okay? And before his fame and before, the substances sort of came into play, he was actually a very quiet, sort of withdrawn type of person. He just kind of liked to study, he liked to write his poetry. When he would like perform his songs in the beginning, he had so much stage fright. He was really kind of this like introspective person, right? So that's K2 on the ascendant, okay? And the reason I bring up this point is because astrology is so many things at once. Okay, so we look at this chart and we can see Jim was absolutely meant to be this huge creative force. He was meant to be someone that was absolutely an artist. He was meant to be someone who was poetic and sensitive and creative and all those things, overindulgent. But then we also see K2 in the first house, which will show us as well that he was inward, he was reflective, he was mystical, he was spiritual, he was shy, he was withdrawn, right? And all of those things are true. It's not one or the other, it's both, right? We can have charts where there's many different aspects going on at once, okay? So K2 on the ascendant, this isn't a chart where I'm looking at it and it's like, oh, this is a really bold, brazen, out there type of personality. No, we see K2 on the ascendant. We see a Capricorn ascendant, meaning that he is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is also that sort of, more withdrawn energy. His first house lord is in the sixth house. Saturn retrograde, his first house lord is retrograde, which actually means that someone is more withdrawn. They're more introspective. So this is such a creative, powerful, potent chart, but also it's a very creative, a very introspective, withdrawn sort of energy as well too. And he was both. He was both things, right? If you kind of read more about his personality before fame, he was very, very quiet. He just liked to study. He was very logical, very analytical in a lot of ways too. He always had people would describe him as kind of in, 1 foot in the physical, 1 foot in the mystical, which is K2 in the first house, okay? That's Shravana, Nakshatra, K2 on the ascendant. You'll find when people have K2 in the first house, they're here, but they're not really here. So they're here on the physical, but they're always kind of somewhere else as well too. So you'll find people with K2 on the ascendant are very mystical. Why? Because K2 is the spiritual, K2 is the mystical, and it's on the first house of the ascendant. So it's how they're coming across and coming, across to people in this lifetime as well too. All right, guys, so this was an in-depth chart analysis into the strength of Venus and how we could see it so many different times in Jim's charts, all right? He has one of the most potent and powerful Venus energies I've seen. That moon opposite Venus will show us all his sort of addiction, extreme issues as well too, and, why women loved him so much in this lifetime as well. We also can see that his sun is in Jyesta Nakshatra, so something that people maybe don't always necessarily talk about when talking about him as well too is how he was very much so a mystic. He was very intuitive. He was very psychic. If you kind of read more of his poetry, he had a lot of these poetic sort of musings about the other side and how he could see dead people and how he was, tapping into spiritual insights and how he was always kind of a psychic. Those things are very prominent in this chart as well too. Sun in Jyesta. Jyesta is a very, very psychic, spiritual nakshatra. K2 on the ascendant. K2 creates a lot of mystical people. We see Jupiter in the 8th, an interest in the occult and the metaphysical. Okay. Mercury and Mola in the 12th house. Mola is all about getting to the root, digging into the root of things. 12th house is a Moshka house, a spiritual house. Moon in a Moshka house as well too. So anyways, we won't get too into that in this video, but this is really his whole life story, right? And we can see it through Vedic astrology because of the amount of information we can access through Vedic. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this in-depth chart analysis of what a strong Venus will look like in someone's chart, how it will manifest in someone's life, and also some other aspects of Jyotisha. All right, I hope you guys have such a beautiful, blessed evening, and comment, like, and subscribe for more content coming soon as well, too. All right, love y'all. Talk soon.